Hey guys, welcome to the Marissa Effect, the podcast where real talk meets deep connection. I'm your host, Marissa, and around here we are all about honest conversations, fresh perspectives, and living a life that feels aligned, inspired, and unapologetically you. Whether we are diving into relationships, wellness, or those aha moments that shift everything in life, this is your space to grow, laugh, and feel seen. I'm so happy you guys are all here with me, so let's go ahead and get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the Marissa Effect. Today, this week, I'm talking about something that, honestly, that I do every single day. I've recorded so many podcasts at this point, but they're always about what somebody else is doing. But I am an educator. I'm a school counselor. I work in a high school, and I have been. This is my 10th year, going into my 10th year. So I've been doing this. I was talking to my colleague, Coach Abby. He's a coach at our school. He's also a teacher. He's a dean. He's done many things in the education world. But we were talking when school ended, and I was like, wait, we should do an episode on education. Really, because the mindset behind this episode is because education has changed and shifted so much since even I graduated, which was a long, long time ago. So I can't really use that as a rule of thumb. But it's changed a lot, especially since COVID. So we're going to kind of open up the floor, talk about the changes, some of the advantages or disadvantages that teachers are feeling now, and just the dynamic in the everyday educational system. So welcome, Coach Abby. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
I'm excited for this.
I've been looking forward to come chat with you for a little bit. So yes, this should be a lot of fun.
Yes. So go into your background of education, or how'd you even get into education?
So I started out of college working in the corporate world. Mm-hmm. I spent about 10 years working for Enterprise, run a car. Mm-hmm. We pick you up. That's mm-hmm. not a joke. The slogan is true. And when I moved here to Florida, I took a position at their corporate level. Mm-hmm. And I realized it just wasn't where I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. And Florida, you mentioned education, this point of this conversation, makes it very easy for people that want to change careers to become an educator. Mm-hmm. I don't know of many other states that have such an easy sort of transfer program, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so I became a substitute teacher. I started coaching junior varsity basketball at Atlantic High School, and they hired me to be a full-time sub. And by the end of that school year, that was in 2015, the principal offered me a job. And I stayed on, and within the next couple years, I ended up developing into not only a teacher, but a leader on campus. I had a couple assistant principals that took me under their wing, that saw some potential in me from my previous career in management, and they thought I'd be a good instructional leader. So I kind of followed their lead while I was at Atlantic. Hopefully we get to COVID a little bit, but COVID changed my life completely because I moved from Atlantic to Spanish River, and that's where I'm currently, working. And to tell you the truth, that leadership journey continued at that school. Mm-hmm. I did not come simply to be a teacher. I came to move on to the next step of life, if you will. Mm-hmm. And the last 3 or 4 years, I've had a chance to transition into a fully administrative role. Mm-hmm. All the way along, despite whether I was in the classroom or if I was as an administrator, I've coached several sports. I have managed several different groups of students and clubs. Mm-hmm. And I've had a chance to really get to know not only how teachers function in a school and how students learn in a school, but also how teachers learn in a school as well. Mm-hmm. And I've got a chance to get a lot of really good experience seeing how not only as we talk about pedagogy, how children learn, but the idea of andragogy as well, how adults learn. Mm-hmm. And I think that experience on both sides has given me a unique perspective, having a business background behind me to what I've experienced as an educator. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I've got me to this moment today. Mm-hmm. And I think it gives me a unique perspective not being a career educator. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people that are educators from the time they get out of college, the ones that are trained to do it, I think quite often have a very different point of view than those of us that change careers. Mm-hmm. And there's even different people. There's colleagues at our school that own their own business and they became a teacher. Yeah. So that's a completely different, that's a third way of getting into it, completely third party way of seeing it. But I think that transition has really given me a chance to, and I moved up quickly at both schools I was at. I think that corporate background really helped. So I'm excited to share some of those thoughts about, not only just what I've been able to learn about the field and the industry, but also where I think it's going to be heading soon. Part of what we do in our lives is we have to read the tea leaves a little bit. And I think, it'll be, kind of a nice thing to be able to spend a little time talking about that.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think for those people who are not in education, they don't even understand it's a different lifestyle. It's a different world. Like when you say I have work Monday through Friday, it's totally different when you have to be an educator and like you're in charge of all these little personalities and or we're in high school, so these big adults or, and rising adults, and its behaviors can be unpredictable. And you have to be able to be resilient and adaptable and not take everything so personally. But every single day, I will tell you, has its different challenges. And every day is not the same. It's so funny because some days are the same in structure, but behavior-wise or experience-wise, memories-wise, they can't be treated equal. What do you say?
Well, I mean, and our roles are different.
Yeah. That's true too.
Your role is you're stewarding a student as they move through. When I was a teacher, my role to what I do now is very different. Yes. Very rarely am I meeting a student for a good reason.
That's true. Well,
I handle
you're
mostly
the dean
discipline.
now. Yeah.
So for me, if you're in my office, 95% of the time it's because you did something that you weren't supposed to, which by the way is it could be either being late to class too many times or you slugged a kid in the face or anything in between, like drug use, parking, all sorts of reasons. So like for my purposes, it's funny. There's someone out there that's hacking up the bushes.
I just saw that.
And you mentioned how life can how the days can be the same yet so different. It's kind of what he's doing to those bushes. Like you'll wake up in the morning and you'll think that you have ABC on your. You look at your calendar. You know what you're supposed to do, and then all of a sudden someone comes in with a machete and hacks up your bush during the day, hacks up your day, and all of a sudden you got to completely divert. And that's the same for whether you're in your role, you're in my role, you're in the classroom, you're maybe handling more of even some of the more support roles like custodial, cafeteria, all those different roles all have such a day-to-day aspect to it. And if you think most careers are really the same thing every day. Most careers you get into, there might be a little bit change here or there, but if you're in sales, you got calls to make.
Right.
You got to talk to your account management people. You got to make sure that you not only make your calls, but you come up with your sales presentations.
Yeah.
If you're a doctor, you have your list of patients. If you're a dentist, you have your list of patients. And I keep going down the list. But in education, and it's funny, all those other realms I talked about, there's some people skills involved, but at the end of the day, it's about the dollar. It's about what kind of money did you bring in. It's usually a fiscal conversation. Well, with us, our capital is not fiscal.
No.
It's human capital. And it's not just, the kids that we deal with. It's the adults that we deal with. It's interpersonal relationships to the point where it affects your ability to do your job.
Yes.
It's funny, my father-in-law, who just retired after nearly 55 years with the same company.
In the corporate world?
Correct.
Okay.
He sometimes gives me a hard time when I complain about the psychology of working in a school. And he says, well, company's the same thing. I've been in both. I've been in education now for a decade. I was at Enterprise for a decade. I've been in both realms for a decade. And I have seen that, no, they are very different. They are very different, specifically in public education. Because in public education, you are dealing with the public's money, the public's time, the public's property, all of that. So everything has to be, I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but everything has to be done in a way which is acceptable to the general public. You see what I'm saying? In corporate America, there's also sorts of that stuff that happens behind closed doors. That's how it works. That's how things work. And so sometimes office politics, they show themselves very different in both realms. And that's one thing that I learned about education is that, and it's funny, I have a 10-year-old, but you can even go down as young as 5 or 6 years old. If the adults in the situation, if there's some kind of stress, if there's some kind of disagreement, if there's some kind of, I'll even call it cattiness to some levels. And that's just women. Men can get just as catty as women can.
Yeah.
But they can feel it. They can read it. Yeah. And when the kids can read it, it kind of creates a different situation. When you're selling a product to a potential customer, if you build a connection, they're usually going to buy from you.
I agree.
If they have a need, they're going to buy from you. Mm-hmm. Like one of my favorite shows of all time was The Office. Mm-hmm. All right, and they sold office supplies.
Yeah.
And it was Dunder Mifflin, and one of the episodes I remember was about selling paper. Okay, if you have a customer who needs paper, and you've developed a relationship with them, and the price is decent, and whatever issue they had with their previous company they've resolved, they're going to buy from you. Mm-hmm. Well, you can be the most intelligent person to know about a specific subject, but if you can't keep your area, room, office, classroom, building, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're responsible for, warm, safe, and inviting.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you know or what kind of a need the kid has.
That is so
they're
true.
not going to learn. Mm-hmm. They're going to basically tune you out.
Yeah.
And so that's what I always tell him. I don't disagree that office politics exist in both arenas. But frankly speaking, the office politics of a school have so much of a heavier weight on what happens below.
Yeah.
It's one of the cool things about, I think, our school and about what I see at our school is, I go into different offices, I go into different classrooms, and we allow our teachers to really express who they are. Mm-hmm. There's some classrooms and offices that are very pride-centric.
Yeah.
There's some classrooms, and I can think of one of our teachers who's a huge soccer fan that has soccer jerseys and scarves all over his room, right? So there's some people, like when I had my classroom, I had an expression wall, a full whiteboard that I let kids write all over that I never erased. Mm-hmm. I left it up all school year, and then I might reset it maybe at every quarter, but I still let them write on it. So every teacher in our situation has a chance to express themselves. Mm-hmm. And kids tend to really enjoy it when the adult that they're around is willing to be vulnerable and share who they are and so on and so forth. That is so important. But if you're in a cubicle, or if you're in an office where you don't really have a lot of people come through, or let's say you are in a situation where you sell things to the public face to face, and you have even something as down as a small little desk tchotchke that someone doesn't really like, you're going to lose the potential for a sale.
Yeah, it's like the relationship building.
You have to be able to do that. And one of the reasons why I was so excited to come chat with you is because I've seen the type of person that you are in building relationships, how you address your students. Even though you might want to strangle them, you're just like I might want to strangle one or two. We still know that in the end, it's their safety and success that are most important to us. And so, we might, in a corporate environment, I might, tell a boss or a colleague of mine to go, up yours. Yeah, but in this situation, you kind of have to find ways to be able to laugh it off, choke it off, and be able to find a middle ground. Mm-hmm. Also, and I'm sure you would agree to this because of what you just setting up schedules and working with kids and that kind of stuff, there are sometimes a lot of chefs in that kitchen. There's a lot of spoons in that bowl.
Oh, yeah.
You might get one who tells you, listen, the student needs to have this, this, and this. Then you might get a parent that says, well, I feel better if my student does that, that, and that.
Oh, yeah.
And then for who we deal with, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, as your point, rising adults, will say, no, I want to do my own thing. Mm-hmm. And so if you can't build a relationship with the student and the parent in a workable way, you're going to bang your head against the wall.
Yeah.
And so, I think that people that specifically are in the support areas of a school.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean guidance.
Yeah.
I also mean secretaries.
Yeah.
I mean testing. People like that are so intricately important because they're the ones who are leading that student to success, despite the fact that a lot of times they may not feel like their voice is heard. or that they are. And so, like, I'll give you a great example. One of the lowest paid jobs on a school campus are secretaries. Mm-hmm. It's because they are technically part-time or full-time employees, but they're not certified in anything. Mm-hmm. So there's not the demand that's necessary to pay them as much.
Yeah, but the responsibilities are crazy.
But just like at a company,
the school's not going to run without a secretary coming to work.
They are the face of the school.
Yes.
When you call, they're the ones that are picking up. Mm-hmm. When you come to the front office, they're the ones who you see. Mm-hmm. They are, as much as we, as those of us that have maybe some might consider an important position or whatever else, running or whatever else, the school, those are the people that are, they're the functionality.
Yeah, that's so true.
And I look at what you do as a specific part of that functionality. Mm-hmm. Because in the end, like you can't cook a dinner without a recipe.
Yeah.
And so building their schedule and building what they're going to do and coming up with a plan over the next 2 to 4 years or whatever it might be, depending when we get them, it's such a huge piece. You mentioned COVID.
Yeah.
And I think COVID, and we still see a lot of that. When you realize that the fear of missing out. What's the FOMO?
FOMO.
That FOMO, you saw it with so many career educators during that period of time. We lost so many seasoned professionals.
We really did.
And a lot of people looked at it as, oh my God, we're going to have such a hard time.
Yeah.
I looked at it with a completely different set of eyes. For me, and I think we've both kind of talked a little bit off camera about this, but I don't know that I believe that education is in the same great place it was when I was a kid. I grew up in the 90s.
Right.
All right. That was before this generation that now we have that bases student and teacher success on testing scores. Mm-hmm. I was under the old regime, if you will, of education mm-hmm. that you really saw over really the second half of the 20th century, mm-hmm. Which was geared towards post-secondary success, mm-hmm. which we say that we do. I don't mm-hmm. know that we always do. Mm-hmm. And that was geared towards making sure that, we paid attention to the content being taught, how it was taught in a way that fit for our generation. But I'm at the tail end of Generation X.
Yeah.
So I was still that group that did what I was told mm-hmm. because I was told to do it. Mm-hmm. When we lost those veteran teachers who taught during that period as well, while it did give us a chunk of our staff taken away, what it gave us the opportunity for, quite frankly, is it gave us the chance to be able to bring in newer faces and newer voices that might be more willing to understand what being a kid is like today.
Okay.
And so for that piece, I think in many ways we're moving in the right direction. Now that makes me a very unpopular person amongst people that are big union people. It makes me a very unpopular people amongst people that are veteran teachers. But all I know is that we have been moving in the wrong direction in education since about the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. No Child Left Behind, and then Common Core, and a lot of those other things that have come out in how we teach and what we teach. And then school tragedies like what we saw in Parkland.
Yeah.
Legislatively, we have done so much to make new policies from people that are making those policies and never taught once in their life. Mm-hmm. So really it comes down to the people that are facing these kids and teaching them, or the people that are facing them and helping to support them. And I think that I'm a little bit older for having a younger voice, but I'm a newer in the field. So I see people that are coming from outside of there that are making strides and connecting because they have that external mind. They didn't go to school as a machine to be a teacher. Right. And those that you went to college to...
No, I went to college to be a school counselor.
Oh, counselor. Yeah. You went to school, what you're going to do. What I've realized is that those that did go to college to be a teacher, and maybe you can speak on your experience, I'd love to hear it, you don't really learn what the job's about.
No, I agree with you 100% about that. Mm-hmm. Even though I specifically went to school for school counseling, I did not learn. What I do day in and day out has nothing to do textbook with what I learned, or the projects I did, or the internship that I had to do all these hours. I do not do these things.
Because
Actually, as a matter of fact, back in the day when I was going for my master's, I had to see a supervisor, and an active school counselor had to oversee me and like sign off on my hours that I did them. And one of the things she said to me was, the stuff that the school is asking you to do on the site is stuff you're never going to see on the real job. And honestly, I was supposed to like pull 5 kids and do small group work with them and do group work with them over the course of like
I've worked with a lot of guidance
weeks.
counselors. I've never seen that happen before.
I mean, it was so many younger, like I was young, so I was naive. And I remember being like, why is the principal like unfrustrated by this? Like, because my supervisor had to like go and see if like I could pull all these kids out of class at the time, you know? And I'm like, why would they be frustrated? But it's because it's just that's not the role. So it's so hard to think kind of, I don't want to say outside the box, but it's like when you're running a school, it's like that's not a good use of your time at the high school level. I don't know. Small groups and checking in, and it sounds great and lovely. I don't find it effective. I don't find it to work. And I don't even know where you're finding the time to pull 5 kids out of their busy schedules, out of class, and follow up with them on a weekly scheduled basis. Like, I don't know. Honestly, we do have mental health therapists though, and they're pretty good at it, but it is one-on-one counseling, so it's easier, and they're doing real active counseling. You got to remember, school counselors don't do counseling. We guide and advise for academics. We listen to social emotional needs, but we don't actually provide counseling resources. Like, I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
I'm not a licensed therapist, so we still have to outsource for that. Anyway, yeah, the job is just not that. I mean, I'm constantly meeting kids. Kids are constantly going through my office door. I will say, I know I'm going all over the place. So I will say the art of being a school counselor, I think, for me, is to have that open door policy. I know other school counselors are like, book an appointment with me and I will only see you during your scheduled time. This doesn't work for me as a human being. Like, if I had to schedule everything, I'm not sure if I'd show up for any. I don't know. I don't, my brain just doesn't calculate like that. So I'm okay with like kids just kind of coming in and popping in, asking me their questions and leaving. I know it's not everybody's style, but it works for me. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It was just such a different experience when I was getting my master's, and I was like, I remember just being super excited to join a school, and then I'm like, oh shit, this is not the job. Nobody ever said you're going to sit in front of your computer for hours on end when the school opens up for the back to school that first week. It's hours and hours and hours worth of schedule changes. Nobody ever talks to you about that or says how to do it fast. I mean, and that's like the bulk of the job. And then you start to memorize, like, it's honestly crazy the shit that you memorize. How many freaking numbers this teacher has, or what period this kid's got. You start to memorize this crap, and it's crazy. It's like a puzzle piece in the beginning of the school year, but you're going to spend hours on it, and you're going to go home and you're going to keep on doing it, and then your emails are going to blow up, and then parents are not happy because it's not happening fast enough, and blah, 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 blah. It's just a snowball train reaction. But no, that wasn't taught to me in being a school counselor, like in your master's, and it's never even discussed. Like, even though that's a high school piece, I think middle school has its own needs, and elementary school, I think some of those counselors are on the wheel, which is like the teaching wheel, and they teach us, but they teach a elective class for, like, that's crazy. That would throw me through a loop, but again, it's not taught.
Well, think about this. Now, so you went to school for that, and you're doing things that you never were taught to do, or you never were explained would be part of what your role would be, right?
Right.
The biggest issue that we have, and I can tell you this from just experiencing it at multiple schools, and not only that, but following multiple different accounts on social media that are career educators and so on and so forth, is that you have a lot of people that get new to the field, that come out of college to be teachers, and they leave within 3 or 4 years. And a lot of times it's that they're dissatisfied with how the job went, they're dissatisfied with the pay, or the pay is not even enough to be able to survive, whatever their situation is about pay, but pay usually plays a big part of it. Job satisfaction.
Yeah.
A lot of times you get a lot of teachers that are non-reappointed within their first year. They go somewhere else and they don't want to just keep bouncing around, so they go to find something else. Now, that negativity to somebody who is fresh out of college, who is experiencing things in the job that they didn't expect it to.
True.
All right? That is going to chase so many people away.
True.
Those of us that come from a different career, that have already had to figure stuff out, that have already gone through the rigmaroles of corporate life, or now we've opened channels for ex-military members to become teachers. You know, those channels bring in such important people because we have the ability to be flexible, because we've had to go through BS from above and having to change course immediately and having to figure stuff out. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. One of the things that made me, and look, I don't like to brag. I'm a pretty humble person, but my test scores for whatever year I taught were always one of the top in the county. I was always really good at getting kids through state testing. But the reason I was able to figure out how to do that is I want to paint you a picture of my previous corporate life. It's a Monday morning. I have 15 reservations for rental cars at 8 a.m. We get to the office at 7:30 to line up cars out front. As soon as the phone rings, I get a call from 2 body shops. So one body shop has 3 customers rating. One body shop has 5 customers rating. I don't have a reservation for them. I have 2 cars that were dropped at the local Midas or the local Jiffy Lube over the weekend. I got to get picked up. And my satellite up the street has 3 returns that have to get flipped for their service.
Right.
Okay, now, so I just listed about 25 car needs, only about 7 cars. Okay. So I'm in a position in the corporate world, what I did, where I had to figure out how do I get those people on the road. Because if I don't get them on the road, guess what? The body shop, they'll go to Hertz next time. All right? The dealership, they'll just tell the customer, you know what? We'll fix your car while you're here. We'll do it quickly. We'll get you out because they can't get your car. Right? So if I couldn't figure that out, and by the way, it's a very difficult solution a lot of times. You're having to deal with other branches. Can I borrow a couple cars and I'll get your car back later?
Yeah.
You're talking to your regional or area management. Hey, can you send me a run of drivers with 6 cars? Like, I'm stuck. And sometimes you might be missing an employee or 2. And so all of a sudden, like, I would sometimes be in a branch by myself, writing 3 or 4 rental contracts at once, trying to get cars out, and we're trying to get customers. Now, I want you to take that, and it seems it's crazy, and it's difficult if you've never had to do it.
Yeah.
And then take that same mentality when you get a bunch of kids in the classroom who are all over the place in what they're learning. It's a mental way to compartmentalize it. And one of the things, and we've talked about this before, that this generation lacks, and it's you are on the beginning of that generation. You resemble much more of someone from Gen X. Your personality.
No. I am?
Yes.
That's the generation after millennials, right?
That was before millennials.
Oh, shit, really?
Yes. Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, and Alpha.
Oh.
That's the order. You resemble, and you know, my wife's been in the background. She's shaking her head. She agrees 100%. Your mentality is much more of a Gen Xer than anything else. Yes. Because you understand that life is about hard work. Life is about dedicating yourself to a craft. I mean, look at what you've done in less than a few months. You've developed so much wonderful content. I love listening to what you do. That's why I was excited to join you. But that you are a rarity in your generation. The vast majority of Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and millennials get so disenfranchised with something so quickly when it's not something that befits what they picture should be the best situation for themselves. Look, there were times when I worked at the airport for Enterprise, and we also own Alamo National. So sometimes I'd have to work for Alamo National as well, where I would get to work at 4 a.m. And I would get home at 3 p.m. And my wife would get home at 6:30. I'd be sleeping. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. to go to work, and she would be sleeping.
Oh, really?
So this is when we first got married. We didn't see each other for sometime weeks on end, except for once a week.
Oh my gosh.
But that hustle.
Yeah, it was
going there back and forth. I lived 45 minutes from the Baltimore airport. I grew up in Baltimore. That's where I worked. But we lived north of the city and the airport south of the city. So the amount of shifts I had to do, or the worst, which was 2 to 2.
What, 2
p.m. to 2 a.m. That was the worst.
Holy crap.
That was the worst. And to be honest with you, if you've ever worked in an airport, you know the vast majority of airlines stop arriving around 10:30. So from 11 to 2,
no one in there.
no one's coming in.
Oh, that's
You're
lonely.
sitting in an empty box in a garage.
Yeah.
In the middle of January.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows, ever rented from Enterprise Rent a Car, their dress code until recently, last couple of years they changed, was white shirt and tie and a jacket. If you're a man, if you're a woman, you had to wear a business suit.
Oh, wow.
So we're sitting in a cold garage in that gear. So we're not wearing winter coats. We're not wearing, ski pants. Like, we are freezing our tuchus off, to use a little Yiddish. Or, we're shivering, right? But those experiences had prepared me. And then, by the way, we were responsible for sales numbers.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the worst salesperson in the world. I'm great at talking to people, but listen, I was terrible with girls too. I was great talking to people, but when it came time to close the sale, I don't want to spend other people's money.
Yeah.
That's not how I am.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me what you want to buy from me. I'm not going to ask for your money. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
I don't mind asking for you to learn from me. It's a completely different relationship, but I don't want to ask for your money. So I was terrible at sales. I was terrible. I could talk up a girl left and right. And when it came time to ask for a number, I'd be like, blah, 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 blah. Like, I remember the best example I had was when I tried to trade a girl a box turtle for her phone number on a golf course when I was in high school, right? That was the only thing I could ever think to do. Like, I had to trade something. I couldn't just ask. So, like, the reason I tell that story is to sort of give you the idea that over time, and working in those different tough environments taught me that sometimes life is going to stink.
Yeah.
And I couldn't sell, so I had the pressure of having to sell on top of me. I didn't really care much about selling.
Yeah.
My skills were always customer service and colleague or employee development, which is what kind of pushed me to education. But sort of back to my point, this generation of young people, and I don't mean kids, I mean those that are coming out of college, those that are now in their mid-20s, they have a very different outlook about what life satisfaction is about, what dedication is about, what commitment is about. I mean, I hate to say this, but this generation of people are buying less houses than ever before. This generation of people are having less children.
Yeah, well, that I know.
And again, that's not me judging. Listen, people should do whatever they want. If you want to run down the street in a hula skirt and nothing else and scream and yell with your hair on fire, by all means do it. Just don't run in my house because you're going to burn my house down.
Yeah.
Like, I've always had that philosophy in life. And sometimes that's tough to be able to live a double life where you have to be disciplinarian, but you also are someone who believes in, very much almost a libertarian mentality. But I see this generation, and what makes me feel nerves about education is that the kids are like that, and the adults teaching them are like that.
Yes.
At least when millennials were in high school, in middle school 10, 15 years ago, they were being taught by teachers who still had that Gen Z baby boomer mentality. I was lucky. I shouldn't say this is not why I was lucky. My parents split up when I was young. My mother was a bit abusive with me and my sister. My maternal representative, if you really turn into my grandmother, who was a woman who quit school at 14 during the Great Depression to take care of her immigrant parents. And she worked until she was in her 80s. In fact, she lied to her employer about how old she was so she could keep working.
Oh, shit.
She worked the night shift at Duracell. She made batteries at night. Worked in a factory. She would work the 5 to 3 shift. She'd go to work at 5 p.m. She'd leave at 3 in the morning. And my grandma, God bless you, my grandma Abendondolo. I used to call her Philomena or Grandma Dondo. Was what I called her when I was little because I couldn't say Abendondolo.
Yeah.
But she would work literally. She worked until she was 84 years old.
Oh, wow.
And her employer thought she was in her mid 70s.
Yeah, because it kept her young.
That's
it
just she kept working.
Her brain healthy.
And but that was who my biggest maternal influence was as a child.
Yeah.
And my father was a priest and left the priesthood to become a mental health professional. And But during the time he was a priest, he also did work in factories. Like, he was a blue collar guy for the most part. And so growing up with those two as my two main people, that I still the two people I look up to the most in my life, my father and my grandmother, that work ethic came down to me, but it came down to a lot of people in my age group.
Yeah.
Because we were raised by the people that were of those generations.
Yeah.
Millennials now.
I don't know. Yeah, it is changing. So I think but I also think the demands on the kids are different because they have to pass all my standardized tests and they have to have these certain test scores to get themselves into college and this and that and other thing. And I don't know if they are really provided with the opportunity to really explore their genuine interests because they need to take this many AP or this many ACE classes to get into college and stuff. So anyway, I see a difference I just feel a difference in hard work. Like I know some of my friends that didn't do the college route, or maybe they did it, but they went rogue and did they went the entrepreneurial route or something like that. Their dedication and hard work is it's really close. Their dedication and hard work, they see the value in it because they get financially what they put into it. But honestly, I put in a lot of work into my education, and I work so many extra jobs for extra money, and I don't know. Like I do. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is I did it the right way, and I don't feel like I did it the right way. I actually feel punished by it because I'm not making the money that like I could be making, or for the creativity that I have, or like you said, the dedication I have. I'm like, well, you know what? And then I do fear that because their education doesn't have that, or maybe they don't value that to pay, you're going to start seeing a turnover in talented educators in the workforce.
Well, they're already leaving.
Yeah.
They're already leaving in large numbers. That's why I kind of brought the COVID fear of missing out, where a lot of those people jetted because of that.
Well, I will tell you, though, my experience with COVID was like, I fight myself every start of the school year because I'm like, this is just not it. Like, there has to be something more. Before COVID, it was life. It was just what I knew. And then when the world shut down and we were able to kind of do our jobs remote, I kind of didn't like that either because the kids weren't involved. They were pretending they were in class. You could see ceiling fans going off. There was no disciplining them because they weren't in your building. And then that year where they could pick and choose if they could come in, that was even more challenging. I never really got my spirits back for education after COVID. I will tell you that. And then our state were waiving testing requirements. So like that part was kind of neat because you saw like the kids can kind of like let their shoulders fall down. But like then it came back, and I feel like it came back even harder. Bright Futures got even harder for them. There's more standards for them to hit. And I'm just like, okay, like this is just it. I hate to say this, sometimes it could be exhausting. Sometimes it feels fueling, but sometimes it becomes exhausting. And I'm like, am I doing this because my heart and soul loves it, or what the heck am I doing it for? Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's why I think the system's broken. Because for people, and I think there's more people like you than there's not. Like, I think there's more people that if you actually have a conversation with them, and that's why, one of the skills that I've always had, no matter what I've done in my life, was relationship building. Like I said, I could build a relationship, I just couldn't close the deal to get the phone number. But the relationship building part of it, I've gotten to know enough people where they've trusted me.
Yeah.
And they've been able to share your same sentiment. But it's broken because you kind of nailed it with what you first started saying, that kids aren't able to explore what's really important to them.
Yeah, and I don't want to I struggle myself pushing a mission onto them like you need to be college bound to be successful. I struggle with that because I don't feel that way.
Well, you don't.
I think education is valuable. I think it's a great tool, but I don't think it's a dictator in somebody's success or not, because I have close friends that don't even have their college degrees and they're way more. I think it's also how you measure success too, but it's a fixed mindset, I believe, if you're really going to say that you need to have these types of scores to be a successful student or a bright student or somebody who's going to have a bright future. You need to have A's in all college level classes, a GPA of this, and these types of test scores. It's I don't like it. I just don't agree.
You raised up two big points. Number one, the thing about education. Education doesn't have to be in a school.
Yeah.
It can be working in a job.
Yeah. It
can be experiencing life. So all of that, I think, can count as some type of education kind of situation. And I agree with you. One of my favorite people is Mike Rowe. If you're familiar with Mike Rowe. Mike Rowe is from Baltimore. He's from the area where we grew up. I always love watching him because I hear that Maryland accent pop out. But the fact that he talks so much about opportunities outside of traditional college environments that, my son, if you get to know him, he's not a college kid. Maybe he'll change as he gets older, but to this point in life, it's pretty clear he's not going to be university bound. That's just not how his mind works. But that kid will make bank because he's a great salesperson. He walks into a place he's never been before, wink, wink, and asks, "Can I play with your toys?" Wink, wink. Even we told him you're not supposed to, wink, wink. But that's kind of how he operates. And a lot of times parents will say, "I'm worried my kid's going to be successful here or there." I've never been concerned about him being successful because I know that young man will figure it out when it comes time to figure it out.
Yeah.
The other thing you brought up, and I'm kind of happy that you did, was because you talked about some of the references to why the system is slowly breaking. And something that I love about the state that we're in, even though the district that we're in doesn't do a great job of, is promoting school choice. Is promoting educational choice. My wife works in charter education. If you bring up charter education with a seasoned professional who works in the public schools, they will act like it's the worst thing in the world. However, I will tell you now, she's been there 5 years.
Yeah.
And I've been able to watch the school grow. I've been able to see how the school operates. It is an A school for both elementary and middle. It gets results out of all of its subgroups. It's become a truly ingrained part of the community. They represent different elementary schools and middle schools. Where parents have chosen to put their students at this specific place for educational opportunity, and they do a great job. There are people that have started pulling their kids out for virtual school, to school at home, to either be homeschooled by their parents or homeschooled by whatever companies are doing that. There are people that have hired one-on-one tutors to do the education for their kids. Living in a place like South Florida, you have a lot of kids that play sports like golf and tennis. They don't go to school.
Right.
They travel around the world and they tour. Kids that act, kids that do those kinds of things. Kids that are not socially able to function in a brick and mortar environment. Kids that are on the spectrum. A lot of kids on the spectrum stay home.
Yeah.
It's too much on their facilities to be able to work it out on a 9-to-5 school day. So the point is that I've always believed that competition breeds excellence. That when we have competing anything economically, when you have a resource, and we're talking about children now, and you have different people competing for the opportunity to teach those children, a lot of times you'll get people that are haters say, well, they get money for it, or they're doing it for this, or doing. In the end, this is something that harkens back to what we had 150, 200 years ago, where the parents involved in the situation were much more involved. And now that we get more choice in education, you're giving parents more of an opportunity to have a choice in what they're doing and what their kids are doing. And I didn't, to be honest with you, the way that it functioned back in Maryland, where I came from, it was a mess. Yeah, it was rife with a lot of things that you could see through the press and through people that were involved in that situation, that they were not the most wholesome, if you will. Yeah. But I've seen it work here. Yeah. And while there may be those same types of issues, I have seen a lot of our charter schools be very successful. There are districts like Broward that are moving quickly towards the charter system. They are opening up charter schools left and right in Broward. I know that. Okay. And the Broward schools that are there are expanding rapidly to other grades. The school that my wife is at was originally K through 5. Now it's K through 8, and the next 2 years are going to be K through 12.
Okay.
So those schools are expanding. And why? Well, one reason is a lot of the schools that are already open district schools are becoming overcrowded.
Yep.
The neighborhoods around some of those schools are growing rapidly. You think about Central Boca on Olympic Heights, they just opened 2 huge communities of so many homes, single family homes, that you're going to have to start moving kids around. When they opened Garcia, they had such a shift in people around, right? So you end up with a situation a lot of times where those charters fill a need.
Yep.
The thing that they will always fight, and I will say I begrudgingly joined the union when I was a first-time teacher, and I begrudgingly stayed a member of the union since then. I'm the last person that I'm not a big fan of unionized work on any level. I think sometimes it protects the lowest common denominator. It does not uplift the highest common denominator. That does not mean I don't support anybody who's been assisted by the union. That's the way I see unions in general. But having said that, you'll get people from that side of the aisle talk about how it's corrupt or how it's only about the money and so on and so forth. But again, I bring up examples like where my wife works, which is an excellent charter situation where kids are learning, they're doing well, and they're leaving middle school as they're going back to their zoned high schools in a situation where they are sometimes more prepared for high school and college success than not. But to that very point, even if they don't go to college, they are showing that they are more in tune with what the state demands of them as they move into high school. And when you have competition for those resources, you tend to force the ones that are in the established arena to try harder.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And you're forcing them to sometimes make decisions that people don't always like.
Yeah.
But you're forcing them to, once again, reconnect. Like, I think one of the best things our school does is connection with the community. It is definitely a part of the community it sits in.
Yeah.
And when you have that, it builds a good communication back and forth. A lot of schools do not function like that. And so I can think of at least a couple schools in the school district that are a mess, not only because of the communities that they serve and it's already difficult,
right,
but the fact that there are other competing interests there, and those schools that have existed for so long don't do what they have to do to compete.
Yeah.
And I think people that went to college, people that are career educators, people at the college to be educators, tend to not have the same aggressive corporate mentality that those that have worked in a sales environment have, those that have worked in a private environment have, where you're competing for a share of someone's financial capital with several other companies that do the same thing. And now public schools are having to compete. And that started, to go back to the original point that we started with, this was COVID.
Yeah.
Where parents realized that, hey, our kids don't have to, at least that's the way they saw it. Now, testing data suggests this and that, and that there was loss and everything. But when you're testing somebody from when they were out to where they were in, and then they were out, and then they were in, it's not an accurate test. You have to test people to see who are out before and who are out later, who are in before and who are in later. They're not always apples and oranges.
Yeah.
And we act like that they're apples and apples. And I meant to say they're apples and oranges. We act like they're apples and apples, but they're not.
Yeah.
And so when public gets around to understanding on a greater level that they have to compete, a district a couple of years ago did the customer service training. It was Catch the Wave. It was all about serving your customer, who is your parents, right, or the people in the community. Like I'm all about it because I like customer service. I believe in customer service, but that just goes to show you the mentality has to change.
Yeah,
we have to go away from the idea that we're just going to follow whatever basic science tells us with pedagogy and all that other stuff. We got to be more open to competition. We got to be more open to, to giving parents a chance to choose, and when the industry itself understands that the private side of things, the charter side of things, hell, even the voucher side of things, where parents can get vouchers to send their kids to private schools. When people realize that those things are a thing of the future, as opposed to something that we've just talked about wanting to do, the stronger the system will become, because at that point they will work to catch up with everybody else.
That's true. It's so true. It's crazy. I did want to wait. I need help really quick. Can you see how much time we have on the camera to record? Because there's a question I wanted to ask you about the demands of teachers. It's like that little white box. It says it in the top of the little screen. 84%. And next to it. 43 minutes. Okay, we have time. I do want to. Sorry, guys. I do want to. Ask you though, what are the demands that you're seeing with education? Like I see a lot of stressed out teachers or teachers that are falling out of love with it or not having the same heart dedication towards their towards I don't know, the job in itself because of the demands of like what, I don't know if it would be the state putting on the schools, but there's, to work in a high school at the high school level at the end of the school year is taxing, to say the least. You're constantly being told what to do, that there's these requirements, these deadlines that you need to have in place and you have to meet. But then the whole entire school day, basically 75% of the school day, you're pulled for testing, and that's a non-negotiable. And when you're proctoring a test, maybe it sounds like you just walk around the room and do your grading or read what you got to read, your emails, but you can't be on your electronics. These are the rules and regulations of being a proctor. You have to be active proctoring, walking around that room. And I see teachers, fatigued is like a polite word to say it, honestly.
They're exhausted.
And they're exhausted. And then they have to take their work home. And it's just, and there's no reward for taking your work home. Like there's no extra. I know that there's a lot, like say if we were nurses or in the medical field, we'd be able to work overtime. We don't get overtime pay. So now you have exhausted, depleted teachers taking their work home. And it just doesn't create to me an environment that makes you feel like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to be doing every day. And that's what I'm fearing, because these are the role models that are teaching your kids every single day.
I think it's twofold. I think I'm going to go big and then small.
Okay.
The biggest toll is the people's personal lives.
Okay.
If you're married or you have a significant other, you have a life partner, someone you live with, whatever the case, even a roommate, if you're close with that person, your relationship with them is going to suffer if you're stressed outside the home. It's not going to be easy at home because it's not easy at work. And human beings, as much as we want to say we want to leave what's at work, we're human beings. We're not always able to do that.
It's just like a job like ours that requires connection with others.
And to be able to disconnect that quickly, it's very, very hard to do. I'm a big believer in social emotional learning. But I would be the first person to say it's a crazy expectation to think that most people can turn it off and turn it on.
Yeah.
They can't. My father was a psychologist. He was a clinical psychologist. He still sees patients. He's in his 80s. He's been doing it since 1984. So we're now into his 42nd year of seeing patients. My father can hear the craziest stories from, and he does mostly family therapy. So couples therapy or a couple and a couple children. He does see some individual people. One of the biggest group of clients he has seen are people in law enforcement. He will hear some crazy stories. And remember, from a psychologist, you're privileged. You can't share that.
Right.
So it means he hears those crazy stories, and then he has to eat them.
Yeah.
And so what does he do? He hired his own psychologist.
Yeah.
So he could talk to somebody else. He's been doing it now for the better part of the last 3 decades. So having said all that, some people have the ability to do that. But the vast majority of human beings do not. And that goes for percentages of teachers. There are some teachers that can shut it off. To be honest with you, when I was in the classroom, I shut it off easily.
You did?
I don't think I ever graded papers at home. I don't think I ever did anything at home. I turned it off when I left, and then I turned it back on when I got to work.
Maybe you're better at setting those types of boundaries.
When I was in teaching, I was. But when I became an administrator and I got involved in leadership, no, that I took it home all the time.
Okay.
Because I'm not dealing with simply just going through content with somebody and explaining what I love about, American history or European history. I'm literally thinking about the fact that they sent the kid home for 10 days and it's going to follow him until he graduates high school. I'm thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff you can't remove. And it's one thing to have a disagreement with a kid. It's another thing to have a disagreement with an adult. And that's very hard to be able to let go. So I think the first thing is the cost that people have outside of the school piece.
Okay.
You mentioned pay. Another big thing.
Yeah.
So many teachers have to get a side hustle, two side hustles, to be able to make things work. Luckily, I'm married. We both have teacher salaries. So combined household income is enough that we're okay. But teacher on their own, an educator on their own, it's impossible. You have to find other ways to make money. Or you live in someone's house or you end up, I remember I had a buddy of mine that used to take the tri-rail into work every day, and he lived with his sister in an apartment in West Palm. So and he didn't have a car. So he would take his bike onto the tri-rail and he'd bike from the tri-rail to our school. It's about a 2-mile bike ride. And then he'd bike back to the tri-rail and go back home. So people like that are evidence of what the field really is when it comes to your economics. And it's very hard to be able to do that. So there's a toll that takes on you beyond just the economic piece. It's the stress of it. When am I going to have enough money to pay my bills? Am I going to be able to put anything away? I want a future.
Right.
And especially when you're young and in the field, you're in your early to mid 20s.
Yep.
And I don't mean to speak for women, but there's a completely different mentality that women have as opposed to men. You're thinking about my future, my nest, all that kind of stuff, right? I'm not trying to be inappropriate, but I'm being serious. It's a general thing that exists.
Yeah.
And I think a big thing that you have issues with, and that's why I've always tried to be sensitive to that kind of stuff, is not enough people are sensitive to understanding the fact that not everybody sees it the same way that you do.
Yeah.
And I think there's some people that are determined to make people see it the way that they see it. And I don't believe in that. I just give my observations. What I will also add, and you mentioned the cost in terms of not being happy and the current state of it. Well, you have enough people on a school campus, and I'll go as small as an elementary school, where what's the faculty in elementary school? Maybe 70? 60 or 70 adults? High school is about 180.
Yeah.
So we'll go with an elementary school. Let's say there's 70 adults at elementary school, right? Let's say you have 7 adults on your campus that feel stressed. And that's probably a low number. All right. They feel stressed to the point where it's affecting them physiologically. All right. Now, everybody in an elementary school, middle school, high school is on a team. Whether you're on a grade team, you're on a subject team, you're on a PLC team because you're teaching a specific subject, you're on a leadership team, whatever it is, you are on some sort of team with other adults, right? At some point of time, one of those 7 individuals, 10% of your campus, is going to be in a conversation with somebody in a team environment where it is clear they are not feeling themselves.
Yeah.
Now,
Totally.
I am someone who reads body language a lot. I read facial expressions a lot. I'm surprised it hasn't got me divorced several times because I complain about that crap left and right, okay? I mean it seriously. I call her out on it all the time. I love my wife, but I do. Having said that, that one person says one thing in a meeting, and let's say one of the other 10% of the school is also on that, and they are a seasoned educator who, regardless of what their situation is, they feel as though it's my job to look out for this young woman.
Yeah.
Right? Or young man.
Yeah.
I'm saying elementary school. Usually elementary teachers are young women.
Yeah.
And most of education are women. Let's be honest here. Most educators are women, which, by the way, creates a completely different dynamic altogether. Like when you have, and again, this is not, I hate the fact that we have completely blurred the lines of what it means to be feminine and masculine. Forget boy and girl. We've completely blurred the lines where, I have a very close friend of mine. She's like a mentor to me. She's a recent college graduate, and she is very, very masculine for a lesbian. It takes a lot of guts to present that way. Because you know that someone is going to eventually judge her for the fact that she presents more masculine. So I make it a point to make my home a welcome place for her, so she knows she can be whoever she wants to be in our home. Okay, so let's go back to what I was talking about. I got off topic with the woman thing, but it is true. A lot of hens chuckling in the coop. It's catty. It's a lot of cattiness. So let's go back to the story. So now all of a sudden, this older teacher, let's say she reaches out to look out for the younger teacher. She says, "I saw you were bothered by something. Let's talk." 9 times out of 10, that teacher is not going to have the emotional intelligence to just listen. They're going to give their 2 cents immediately about how that person should react, how that person should act. And I'm guilty of it sometimes. Sometimes I'm not the best listener. Sometimes I throw out suggestions. But usually I think I do a pretty good job of listening.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden now, this young teacher is being advised by this older teacher about what they should feel. Okay, now, when you are younger, and it goes outside of high school now because of the advent of technology and a lot of I call it the me time on phones or tablets or whatever else. We have developed a world where our social construct is ourselves and a screen.
Yes.
It's not ourselves in a group anymore. I remember passing notes to girls in class.
No, they don't do that anymore.
They don't do that anymore. That doesn't happen anymore. I wish it did, because I would have loved to read some of them.
It's so funny because I'll ask the students, like, how did you guys meet, like boyfriend and girlfriend?
Yeah.
Or I'll use a boyfriend and girlfriend as an example. And they're like, yeah, we met on Snapchat. I'm like, what are you talking about? Meanwhile, like, they have their period together.
Yeah.
I'm like, how did you not meet in the class? They met on Snapchat. So
that's my point. We used to meet by talking, by using notes, by sending your boy across the cafeteria. Hey, my boy thinks you're cute. Stuff like that. Like, they don't do that anymore, right? It's very much these things. And so when I say that, so get back to my example. So I'm back to now this young woman who's in the process of trying to figure out who she is and what she wants out of this career and being able to figure out just the day-to-day of doing the job. Now she has someone who she sees has done it for a while.
Yeah.
Young people tend to think if you've done something for a while, you're good at it.
Yes.
They don't understand that you can do something for a while and completely stink at it. I've known plenty of veteran teachers that are not very good or that have lost the moment of which they were good and they've been holding on too long. Yeah. And so now you have that older person advising the younger person. May not be the best advice. Okay, now I want you to imagine how many elementary schools there are in a school district. And then multiply that by about how many districts you might think might be in a state, and then times that by 50. That is an enormous amount of opportunities for younger teachers to be disenfranchised early on. And that's why I asked earlier about what you learned in school about what you were going to do with being a counselor or teacher. Yeah. You don't learn any of that. So now all of a sudden you have all of the ugly crap that comes out with the job. And you're one person who's reached out as a support to you, because as administrators sometimes miss that stuff.
Yeah,
because we're caught up in doing other things. It's the veteran teachers that step up a lot of times to look out for those experiences. Now, I'm not saying we don't have good veteran teachers that do that. I can think of 1 or 2 at our school that are excellent at taking new teachers under their wings and helping them grow. I had a teacher at my first school. Her name was Stacy. She was amazing. She was our department chair. And my first year, I had no idea what I was doing. She literally took me under her wing. And she's a big reason why I'm successful today, because she taught me that whatever it is you do, if you care about the kid in front of you, it's going to work out. Yeah. And that lesson I still hold in my gut today. So now you have all these negative experiences without any kind of experience to the contrary. So now for those that decide to stay on, they have a lot of misconceptions or conceptions that could be changed with positive experience that will not be changed because they've been convinced by an older experienced person that they should be upset or that there's a way they should feel about it. And again, adults need to figure out how they feel about things by reflection. You cannot be told how you should feel about something. No. You have to be able to experience it for yourself and realize if you like it or not. Growing up, I hated beans. Yeah. I hated beans. Now I love beans. I hated black beans.
Do you think you hate them because you were told to hate them?
I hated them because I probably once had one bean that I didn't like the texture of, and no one ever pushed me to try to eat them again. Same thing with spicy food. I did not eat a buffalo wing until I first started dating my wife at 19.
No way.
I did not eat my first buffalo wing until I was 19.
Why?
100% true. I just, my family didn't eat out. We ate home. And it was mostly Italian and German food.
Yeah.
So like I didn't eat a lot of that stuff, right?
Wow, because I just feel like that's pretty American, like standard Buffalo way.
But I didn't.
Football, you were a big football guy? Like
but we never ate wings watching football.
Wow.
We ate hot dogs, hamburgers.
Wow, that's that.
So like this gives you an example, right?
Yeah.
So like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so if you're told to feel about something that you don't know how to react to, and this person is experienced, they've done it for a while, they are in a position of being a veteran, you can lead a lot of people the wrong way, not on purpose. And so now all of a sudden you've either chased out a lot of those new professionals into another line of work, or you've caused them to now, the next time they see one of their colleagues struggling, they do the same thing to them. And the same thing to them, and so it adds stress to the capacity of your teachers.
Yeah.
But then what it also does is with this new generation that can't think for itself worth excuse my language, sugar honey iced tea. They have no ability to think for themselves, right? Now you get a lot of negative minded people who don't have the patience for young people, who have been discouraged to learn the patience for young people. And quite frankly, these are also the same people that quote, well, my contract says, one of the things that I miss about corporate America.
There are those.
If I said to one of my managers or supervisors at enterprise, well, the human resources department says, number one, they would hate me forever. And number two, they'd find the policy always wrong and I'd probably get fired for insubordination. I'm serious. There's something to be said about being told what the situation is by a supervisor. This whole idea there's a moral compass. I don't disagree that I don't agree that morality plays an important part. But sometimes you have to just bite the bullet, suck it up, and do what you need to do at that moment.
Totally.
There have been plenty of kids that I've been told to suspend. Or I've been told to discipline. I'll sit down and talk with them and I'll figure out, if we had just calmed this one spicy thing down for you, this would have never been a problem.
Right.
And while my gut tells me, let's give that a chance, let's work out a compromise and see how it works. I've done what my head's told me to do because that's what people have told me to do, and that's to discipline the child. And even though it might not be what I believed in, it's what the team believed in, and it's what I had to do to keep up with the belief of the team. And that's really, I think, to end this conversation, where we have really lost our way more than anything else.
Totally.
People nowadays, because of, again, these stupid things, and don't get me wrong, I use it all the time. But because of those things, we're doing a podcast where it's one-on-one. So obviously the two of us like hearing ourselves talk, right? 100% true story, right? But, and you're great at it. I told you.
And that's okay, though. My
100%.
cousin said the other day she likes slogging. I'm like, okay, so if you said it, I could say it, right?
100%. And that's okay. But it's okay to be able, but you have to be able to compartmentalize it. You have to be able to say, it's okay for me to hear myself talk and to believe in what I believe and to share what I share. And hopefully I touch somebody. Hopefully it has an impact on somebody. But you also have to be able at the same time to be able to go, it's okay if they don't.
Yeah, no, totally.
It's okay if people don't want to listen to me.
Totally.
And I hate to say it, but the vast majority of millennials, and I have met very few Gen Alpha or Gen Z people who are able to have that mentality.
No, yeah.
You don't have to listen to me. I don't have to listen to you. We can be respectful of each other and move on. And you see it so much. The way
another thing is, it doesn't have to be so extreme. There are plenty of people, they're called influencers now, or people like Alex Cooper. I really think I like who she brings on. I like what she has to say. Sometimes if I don't agree, I'm not like, I'm unfollowing her. I just whatever. Maybe I shut that episode off or something. Like, you know what I mean? If you're just disagreeing or something, so you're allowed to allowed to have.
But here's the thing.
Life and not
me and you in this room, we understand that. But societally and culturally, you can't anymore.
Yeah, but it has to go back to that.
You hope it would.
Yeah.
But I've said this quite often about politics, and this is not a politics chat, but I've said this. And if you really follow the way that things have worked in our country over the last 20 years, or 25 years, there's a clear pendulum. The pendulum swings one side really hard
and comes
and
back.
It swings back the other way. The problem is that I don't see, and I haven't experienced the same generationally.
Yeah.
Boomers Great Depression people, World War II generation. They were able to figure problems out.
I know.
They were, now, don't get me wrong, they were also pretty close-minded. But on the whole, they had an ingenuity about themselves.
They can agree.
They might not agree with each other, but they'll be passionate about what they believe in. If you look at the way Congress used to work 50, 60 years ago, you would get pretty impassioned people to have opinions about certain sides. But I tell you what, Speaker of the House in the 1980s was a guy named Tip O'Neill. Tip O'Neill was a traditional liberal Democrat Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
The president was Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, my son's middle name is Reagan. Ronald Reagan is my favorite Americans of all time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
His ability to communicate, to me, I think is the best communicator in our country's history. That doesn't mean he didn't do things I didn't like.
Yeah, right.
But his ability to be a leader, communicate, have wit, be able to laugh at himself, I always had a tremendous amount of admiration for. And my son's middle name is Reagan because of that. Now, having said that, Reagan was shot in 1981. One of the first people to visit him in the hospital, to spend time with him in the hospital, was Tip O'Neill, the Democratic Speaker of the House, visiting a conservative Republican in the hospital. You could do those things back then. That was regular.
Why is it not?
Because, well, a couple things. Number one, you said the perfect word, influencers. Yeah. People that are public figures now are no longer public figures for the reason that they are. They're influencers. You think about the most recognizable people in Congress. Ortiz Ocasio from Ocasio, I always blank on AOC from New York. You think of a guy like a guy like Kennedy from Louisiana, Senator Kennedy. These people that have made careers out of sound bites.
Yeah,
careers out of saying things that are outrageous on one side or the other. Why? Because it builds their Q rating, it builds the amount of eyes on them, it builds their ability to make money, and so the idea of people being able to hold those positions and say things that are middle of the road are gone. You mentioned Alex Cooper. I'm going to mention Joe Rogan.
Yeah, perfect. They're like
Joe Rogan, exact opposite. But Rogan, he says he has outrageous positions at times, but he comes across them in a very rational way of approaching it. I don't know if you're familiar with Charlie Kirk.
No.
I'm a big fan of Charlie Kirk's. He's not necessarily because of...
I think I do know his social media accounts. Does he go on the college campuses?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't agree with everything he believes in.
He's super conservative,
I think he's too Christy for me.
Okay, yeah.
But every time he argues with somebody, it's a clear, concise argument based off of his rationale.
Yeah.
It's never like, you're just an idiot.
Yeah.
This is what I believe. This is why. And a lot of times it appears he bullies college students. The reason it comes across that way is because the college students are just flipping off the handle. And he's speaking...
But they cannot think... They cannot think aside from the way
That's my point, though. That's my point, though.
Yeah.
So you have that mentality of people now as teachers, and they can be swung the wrong way. But getting back to people like Cooper and Rogan, they are successful not only because of the content they put out, but how they interview, how they talk to the people that they talk to. I remember one of the things that Cooper did was when she had that studio bill for Kamala Harris during the election. And I felt so bad for her because you could tell she was not comfortable. She did a great job with it, but that was not her usual comfort level. But she was able to do a good job because she is a consummate professional at it, and she knows how to communicate and she knows how to talk. People like that may occasionally have an extreme position one way or another, but they don't fly off the handle saying incredibly crazy things as sound bites. When we have people on either side of the aisle, McCarthy did this when he was a Speaker of the House, and then we just had Hakeem Jeffries do this before 4th of July. These people give these 8-hour speeches in Congress to try to stop a vote. You know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Most educated Americans know that it's just a consistent soundbite to try to cause muck.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And maybe 100 years ago, something like that would have had meaning. But today, it's just simply to be seen. If you watch that, I don't know how close you paid. We watched a lot of it where we work because I was really interested to hear what you had to talk about. They changed the people behind him several times.
They do?
Yep, they changed the people behind him. It was 4 or 5 different Congress people regularly. Because why? They were all his colleagues on the Democratic side of the House, and he wanted to make sure each of them got a little bit of screen time behind him. So again, I'm not necessarily, and they could have been aides, whoever they were, but they were different people. I'm not criticizing him for that, but that's what we've become. We've become a nation of, and not just in education, but overall, the soundbite of what did you say that really caught someone's ear?
Yeah.
What did you do to shock them? And, that started with people like Howard Stern and back in the 70s and 80s. But really what happened, and I would encourage you for maybe one of your other episodes, find someone in journalism to talk to about this. But in the mid-90s, the 3 networks all got bought by companies. NBC got bought by, remember who? General Electric. ABC got bought by Capital Cities. Which
is your wife a history girl too, like you are?
I talk a lot about it, so I was hoping
you
she'd remember.
expect her to remember all
So
these facts.
ABC got bought by Capital Cities, which was one of the owners of Disney, and CBS got bought by Viacom. Before that, CBS, ABC, and NBC were run as networks that were there as a public service for the population. Yes, they cared about ratings. Yes, they cared what was on TV, all those kinds of things. But they were not being run by corporations that were looking for profits for shareholders. When those 3 networks were bought by private companies, all of a sudden what they aired had to drive revenue.
Right.
It had to.
Right.
So then you ended up with Fox coming up with their conservative network.
Yes.
NBC coming up with their cable news network to combat that. CNN, which originally was very much just a news network, had to start coming up with their own slant on things.
Wow.
And so it became a competition of who could get the more eyes on it. And then you had the birth of people like Rush Limbaugh and G. Gordon Liddy, who were very conservative talk show hosts, who would say, I remember every episode of the Rush Limbaugh show in the 90s was America held hostages that Clinton was president. I remember that like it was yesterday. And it was like the 725th day that America's held under, and I remember hearing that, but that kind of rhetoric led to what you started seeing on TV. And now if you watch any news networks, if you watch any news programming, there is very little reporting from the ground now. There are people that pontificate what they think about it, not what is actually going on. And what that does is it does 2 things. Number 1, it increases the value of the soundbite. But number 2, getting back to original part of this conversation, young people, people in education, they hear something. Yeah. And in classrooms, you have a group of people, regardless of how old they are, how young they are. You cannot go 180 days without someone bringing up some kind of news event.
That's true.
Some kind of opinion of something. And we have lost our way where when we were kids, we could ask a teacher an opinion. And they'd say, look, I don't expect you to believe it all what I believe, but this is how I see things. And you could make that, I had teachers that could make that difference known. I had a government teacher, Mr. Lesh, who is probably the reason I got into education. It was a spitting twin of Drew Carey. The glasses, the whole 9 yards, the chubby face, the whole time. Lauren knows who I'm talking. We went to high school together. Bruce Lesh was a big influencer in me becoming a teacher. And he taught us AP government.
Oh.
And as a little kid, I was like a hardcore Reaganite. I was super right. I've learned to sort of change my views as I've gotten older. But he used to say, can you not always write with opinion? Every once in a while, can you try to write with fact?
Oh, yeah.
And I'd say, well, how do you feel about such and such? To try to engage him in conversation. And he would not necessarily give us a full outright opinion, but he would explain to us more in depth about how you could see something from different viewpoints. Nowadays, if a teacher attempts to do that, we're trying to sell them on what to believe.
Yeah.
And that's really gets down to the overall issue with all this.
Is that the lawnmower? Oh.
Yeah, they're, for those that none of you can see, but they have literally been rebuilding the architecture of all the bushes and trees outside as we've been doing this. I feel like I'm recording an arboretum. But just to sort of finish that thought, we have lost the ability to take things at face value. We have lost the ability to cope with things that we don't like. And what scares me more than anything else to close this is that until we start getting a better sense of the fact that it's okay for us all to be different,
Yeah, but it's okay to disagree. You don't have to hate them.
That's my point. Being different,
Yeah.
having a different standpoint, having a different viewpoint, and ending at different endings. Mm-hmm. We have gone from legislating equal opportunity to equal finishing marks.
Yeah.
And it's one thing when you give people equal opportunity and you support them to that opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's a completely different ball game when you start to legislate that everybody should finish at the same place. Mm-hmm. Wage gap, it exists. Mm-hmm. But guess what? So does an hours gap. Mm-hmm. Men tend to work more hours per week than women. Mm-hmm. It's just naturally the way that if you look at the statistics, men work an average of 45 hours a week, women work about 40 and a half hours a week. So yes, there is a wage gap, but there's also an hours gap. Mm-hmm. Women tend to get into fields like nursing and education. Men tend to get into fields like engineering and sales. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, those professions, because of what they bring in, tend to bring in more money. So those people tend to get paid more. Professional sports leagues, there are more eyes on men's sports leagues. There's more revenue there to pay those people. It's hard because then you have to make the point, but how do you grow women's sports? But at the same point, it's that it's okay to finish at different levels. Mm-hmm. And I think until we are able to determine that, and I hope we haven't moved too far past that, I hope we are able to get back to that at some point, it will be hard to teach kids effectively because the voices outside of the classroom, outside of their homes, are so heavy on these things. It'll be hard to manage adults as well as easy as we might have been able to through just simple team building, because there's always going to be those couple people that have their negativities about whatever. Yeah. It's hard to be able to combat those. And so I think people like you and me, what we do and how we do our jobs are really sort of the last line of defense. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that people understand that in education, it's not necessarily as bad as it seems, but it has the potential to get there.
Yeah.
And I think competition helps. I think choice helps. I think being able to understand that your kid is just as important as somebody else's kid, I think is a huge piece of it. But
and your kid may have different talents than
which is fine,
kid, and that's great.
That's what makes variety makes the world great. Mm-hmm. If we were all the same people and we all looked the same, not only would be boring, how would we differentiate ourselves? And human nature is all about competition and differentiating yourself. Mm-hmm. It's all about struggle for resources and those kinds of things. It's all about, women don't dress up for men. Women dress up for other women.
I agree.
Yes.
I think I've said that to you in your office.
And I agree with you 1,000%. I believe that for a while. Women dress to compete with other women.
I agree with that.
Men, to be honest with you, a lot of men will say, I don't really care. BS. Mm-hmm. Men look at what other men do. Men look how other men dress. Men look how other men carry themselves. Men might not want to admit to being as catty, but men can be just as catty as women can be from time to time. So when all is said and done, I think it's good that we keep an eye on those things, but I think education only gets stronger if people like the two of us and people that have the same mentality are willing to grow in these fields. Yes. And that's really the only thing that's going to fix it. I don't know that legislatively you can't do anything. Mm. There's no pay there. It's not a revenue drawing. There's no revenue stream into it. We give out free lunches still after COVID, so we're not bringing any money for food in. There's no revenue stream, so there's no money to be able to throw out to people. So really in the end, it just becomes people being willing to, do the right thing.
Do the right thing and just see things differently. Be okay with seeing things
100%.
differently.
100%.
Whew, we talked about a lot in this episode. I like the segue that we took into politics. We're not talking about politics this episode. It's not going there, but it did a little bit. But it was needed.
You get the idea where I'm coming from.
100%.
No matter what you touch.
So I'm we got to wrap this up, but we're going to lose the camera. But I do get nervous about sometimes talking politics because you don't want to lose a friend and stuff. So I do want to say there's power in hearing someone else's views and be like, well, I see it this way, and then just kind of agreeing to disagree. But moving on. Like, you got to move on.
That's what things were like years ago.
We need to kind of go back to that because that's a skill. We have gone so far away that from that, it's causing a huge divide, and it's unfortunate.
100%.
But yeah. Thank you for your time. You're always teaching me new things. All right, guys, until next week.
Thanks.
Thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode on the Marissa Effect. This is where conversations stick, stories spark something real. If today's episode moved you, made you think, or gave you a little inspo, please share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It truly means the world. Until next time, keep showing up, stay curious, and remember your story has an effect too. See you next week.